that the applications were invited from energetic and result-oriented individuals, Mr. Speaker, interested in serving the position of the Clerk of the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker, at PAC Scale 17 in the parliamentary service for a term of 5 years with eligibility for reappointment, Mr. Speaker, for one term of another 5 years, which means this position is a contractual. 5 years, you do well, you can be reappointed for another 5 years, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the duties and the responsibilities. Mr. Speaker, I want to say this. Having been around for many years, Mr. Speaker, in this particular parliament, we should count ourselves lucky because once upon a time, this particular process we are about to undertake, Mr. Speaker, used to be the preserve of the Parliament of the Public Service Commission, Mr. Speaker, and I know me and you, we have been here for many years. We used to have and benefit from the services of special DOs who used to be seconded to this parliament as clerks. Luckily today, the power of appointing your clerk lies with you. This is why at the end of this process, you will exercise your right as a member of parliament, either support or reject, and please exercise that when the time comes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the duties and responsibilities of the clerk, Mr. Speaker, the administrative function is the day-to-day management and the functioning of the National Assembly. 2, the execution of the Commission's decision relating to the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, because we have a bicameral house, we have the Senate, we have the National Assembly, and we have a joint service, Mr. Speaker, and therefore, the work of this particular clerk will be to manage all issues relating to the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker. 3, the overall management of the staff of the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Article 128(2) of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. Among these issues, actually, Mr. Speaker, includes the appointments, promotions, and discipline of staff of the National Assembly. 2, assignment of duties, supervision, and training of staff of the National Assembly. 3, deployment of staff, Mr. Speaker, of the respective clerks to serve in any of the areas in Parliament, Mr. Speaker. 4, preparation and submission of the programs necessary for the achievement of the mandate of the Commission. And 5, performing any other duty as may be assigned, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the procedural functions, rendering expertise and non-partisan and impartial advice to the members of Parliament, members of the National Assembly, on legislative process and parliamentary procedures and practice, Mr. Speaker. That is another core function of the clerk, Mr. Speaker. Also carrying out such other duties and exercising powers as may be conferred on him or her by law or by the standing orders and practice of the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, requirements for one to be a clerk: one had to be a citizen of the Republic of Kenya, one had to hold a degree from a recognized university in Kenya, one at least must have a 10 years experience, one must have demonstrated flair and good understanding of the parliamentary practice, and 5, meet the requirements of the Leadership Integrity Act as prescribed under Chapter 6 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the advertisement further required application must include cover letters from institutions like the Ethics and Anti-Corruption, the Directorate of CID, Kenya Revenue Authority, the Credit Reference Bureau, the Higher Education Loans Board, Mr. Speaker, and the applications were to be addressed to the Secretary of the Commission, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and delivered during the office hours to the head of the Commission Secretariat, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as a result of this advert, over 48 Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, applied for this particular position. And Mr. Speaker, through the shortlisting, 4 individuals were shortlisted, Mr. Speaker. The first was Samuel Josephat Njoroge. 2 was Muhammad Ali Muhammad. 3 was Yunus Wanjiku Kichangi, and 4 was Sarah Kioko. Mr. Speaker, the publication of the long list and the short list and the interview notice was also given. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the Commission carried out oral interviews. And out of these oral interviews, Mr. Speaker, individuals were scored, and I've already stated actually the Commission under your chairmanship went through the shortlisted invited the shortlisted individuals, took them through the interview, Mr. Speaker, on the following methodology for assessment, Mr. Speaker. The first one was academic qualifications. The second was technical proficiency. The third was leadership and administrative experience. The fourth was general knowledge and current affairs. And the fifth, presentational skills and demeanor. And Mr. Speaker, out of this, and Mr. Speaker, I will say this. The Parliamentary Service Commission, Mr. Speaker, pursuant to the 2010 Constitution, Mr. Speaker, is one of the Chapter 15 Constitutional Commission, Mr. Speaker, and this is as a result of what the framers of the current Constitution actually had in mind when they thought of separations of one of the key institutions, actually, Mr. Speaker, in our governance structure, that's the legislature, in having its own commission, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as a result of this, we have come up with a number of legislations, and I want really my colleagues to listen to this. We have the Parliamentary Service Act, Mr. Speaker, which is a product of this House. And that particular bill, that particular act, was a bill that I moved, and when I was moving, Mr. Speaker, and today is in use. The whole House, the whole outside there, everybody was up in arms, but today, luckily, is one of the key acts of Parliament that we use for our day-to-day operations, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, equally, we also have the National Honors Act, Mr. Speaker, which again, US truly moved, and today is one of the acts again at our disposal, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as a result of this, the individuals who are graded, Samuel Njoroge, Mr. Speaker, got, and I'm sure you have this, 87.14. Muhammad Ali got 76.79. Eunice Wanjiku Kichangi got 76.43. Sarah got 75.18, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, based on the foregoing, the Parliamentary Service Commission resolved to have Samuel Njoroge to be appointed to the position of the Clerk of the National Assembly for a term of 5 years. It's contractual. It's 5 years. It's not permanent and pensionable. 5 years. If he performs well, Mr. Speaker, he is eligible for another 5 years, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, pursuant to this, pursuant to Article 128(1) of the Constitution, Samuel Josephat Njoroge is being recommended to the National Assembly for approval as the Clerk of the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, the question is, what happens? The person who was holding this office...
Order, Honorable KEYNAN, there's a point of order from the Honorable Makali Mulu. Yes, Honorable Makali.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we are discussing a very important report, and we've not seen this report, Honorable Speaker. May I seek for your indulgence that we get this report so that we can make reference to the report? Thank you, Mr.
Clerk,
Speaker.
can you circulate the report?